What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Panels on Pages. My name is Dalibor, and today I just want to tell you they're not going to sell the Snyderverse to Netflix. They're just not. Let's talk about all the DC madness. Now, at the end of the year, we had a ton of things canceled, a lot of news about actors parting ways with DC and Warner. Let's just go through it all, right? First of all, third Wonder Woman movie, the draft was rejected, and then eventually Patty Jenkins parted ways. And I believe we've also gotten confirmation that Gal is no longer going to be playing Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins dropped the ball heavily with Wonder Woman 84. I wouldn't want her to do another movie. I have no interest in seeing another Patty Jenkins helmed Wonder Woman film ever. Now, we did sadly lose Henry Cavill as Superman, but I think the reason that happened is the studio got sold a bad idea. Not necessarily a bad idea. I mean, Henry Cavill as Superman is a good idea. But the problem is Dwayne Johnson really wanted to muscle his way in. From some reports, it's being talked about like he wanted some sort of ownership and some sort of control inside the DC universe, possibly even Warner. And they weren't going to give that to him. So, yeah. I haven't seen Black Adam yet, but it's generally gotten mixed reviews. And the last time that happened, it wasn't a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. Which, that's another person that's parted ways with DC Warner. The Rock said that at this time, Black Adam is not part of the plans for DC, not part of the slate. But he mentioned something about the multiverse, which if it's a possibility, if you can run this character through, some sort of, multiverse kind of presentation, just give him a couple movies or whatever. Look, if I'm going to watch it soonish, it's not super high on my list. So it's there's so many other things to watch because it really didn't look that great. It looked fun, but the big thing that I'm hearing is the plot is kind of meh, just kind of whatever. And I'm a big plot person. I like to see a good story. Even if the action's great, I don't really care if the plot is mediocre. Now, I know that could sound a little hypocritical because I say I like watching the Fast and Furious franchise, the Transformers films, but I'm going into those films looking for a specific thing. With superhero films, I'm looking for a good story. I want a good story out of a superhero film, so if I know that the story is meh, I'm kind of already expecting certain things. I liked The Batman. Everyone that's touting as this cinematic masterpiece, it wasn't that great. His Bruce Wayne was bad. He wasn't really a great detective. He was an okay fighter. He definitely doesn't seem like someone who spent several years out in the world learning investigative techniques and fighting styles. So it's a different Batman universe already. We're looking at an undertrained, underexperienced Batman. So it's a different thing, right? But they're making 2 more of those presumably, and at least 1 or 2 shows. So it made enough money, and that's all that matters really for them, for Warner Brothers. And I think it was a good enough story, and I think it was good enough action. Could it have been better? Yeah, but at the same time, it's year 2 Batman, so it wasn't going to be the best thing ever. I think they did a really good job with the material they presented. I thought they kind of almost did No Man's Land and then just kind of didn't, because they're we're rebuilding already, blah, blah, blah. We're getting all this support from outside the city. But I right for a moment, when all the bridges started blowing up and stuff, I was like, man, if they're going No Man's Land, I am genuinely interested to see this next chapter in this, because that's interesting. But they didn't do it. They didn't commit to it. And honestly, now I don't think they could ever do it, in that universe. But who knows? They have a couple more movies to work with. They have a couple more shows, possibly more, depending on how everything does. I think that's an interesting one to watch. We're obviously getting a new Joker film. So, I really didn't necessarily think that needed a sequel. But here we are. I don't really care that much about the Joker, honestly. I think the Joker is kind of one of the stalest villains around. It's just been done so many times in so many ways. I just don't care anymore. I'm not excited about, the Joker's the villain of the story. No, give me something more interesting. With all the superheroes, I get very salty when we start just recycling, going back and we're just gonna it's the same bad guy, it's the same, we're gonna bring back whoever, that's suddenly it's fucking Scorpion. Granted, now the Scorpion's a bit of a punching bag villain these days, but the new Spider-Man comic opened with Scorpion getting his ass, handed to him by Miles, and that's how it should be, because like I don't want Scorpion to be the fucking bad guy. Like I like the period of time where the Riddler was like a police consultant. Like give me a new interesting take on these characters, right? Now granted, the Joker can never be, a consultant or whatever. He's fucking evil. But do something different, not make him pregnant, for fuck's sake. That was a weird one. Regardless, I'm not really excited about a new Joker film, but I'll probably end up watching it. Maybe not in theaters. I will say, for this coming year, DC's not going to get any of my theater money. Like, maybe Blue Beetle. But that trailer is going to have to knock it all the way out of the park. And it's going to need to probably stand alone. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking, because I think Flash, if it doesn't come out first, it should come out first. Or maybe it's Aquaman, then Flash or whatever. But my point is, we should not have to wonder. Like, that's the biggest thing, one of the biggest problems we've had in the Snyderverse era. We kept wondering where shit was. Like, was shit related? Like, the Shazam movie, it was kind of in the same world, but like, they didn't get Henry Cavill to do the cameo. They got someone in the same suit, but like, was it the same guy? We don't know, because we didn't show his face. Now, in the trailer for the new Shazam, they seem to indicate, with little clips from other movies, that it's in the same universe, because he's saying, oh, all these other people are already out there. What am I doing? But even then, like, are we going to see these people in this universe? Because it could very well just be another universe. Because if we don't see them on screen, that's just another universe with those characters in it. So if we don't know where Blue Beetle takes place, like, I kind of don't care. Like, I care because I actually really like Jaime. Like, I really like the character. The power set is really interesting. If it's not part of, like, the new status quo, like, if it's not, oh, we're going to have another Blue Beetle movie, or we're going to put Blue Beetle in a Titans film or whatever, then it's just, we were already filming this, and it's already cost us X amount of money, so we're just going to put it out. That's really what it is. And I'm not interested in that. Like, Flash would have been my absolute number one pick of all of the stuff that they've been doing. But it's Ezra Miller, and I'm uninterested in their shit. So I'm definitely not going to see that. I will probably watch that on HBO Max when it eventually comes out, but unless it resets everything and gives us some sort of an explanation and gives us a new Flash, and that's the biggest key factor there, because Ezra Miller should not continue in this franchise unless the Flash film does that and gives us a whole new Flash on top of a whole new universe where we can explain why Superman looks different, everyone looks different, and why Lobo looks like Aquaman from a year ago, because that seems to be the way we're going. Unless he does that, unless the Flash film does that, I don't know that any new... I probably won't be seeing the Blue Beetle in theaters, and that's a bit disappointing, honestly. Going forward, once the announcements are made, which should be coming up soonish here, James Gunn did say something about some announcements pretty soon here, so we'll see what that's all about, but he's not going to announce the whole slate. They're not going to commit to any dates. If they commit to 2 years of films, I'd be shocked. I would be out of this world shocked. If they commit to like 2024 and 2025, my mind would be exploded. But if I were to guess, coming up, we probably get another Suicide Squad film. James Gunn will swap all the characters. He doesn't really care. There are so many B and C listers in DC, especially villains. You can make a really interesting Suicide Squad. And I think that's the thing that's always kind of like made me bored of Suicide Squad comics. It's like, oh, it's the same fucking 6 people. Like, at some point, the like absurdity of the shit that Amanda Waller is making these people do would make them just be like, I'm fucking out. And then she'd be like, nope, click, boom. And so like the few people that are just like getting Stockholm syndrome, like Catman, like we need to bring in Catman. Catman needs to be the one that's like, I've got a fucking kid, like I can't fucking die. And cause can we not have like every fucking person have some sort of tragic family story? That was the other thing that we did again in the fucking new one. Like it was better, but that shit really bothered me. Like not every fucking villain needs to have a tragic backstory. Can we just like some of them were bastards, and I loved that. That was fantastic. They got blown up. It was beautiful. Like just we need some fucking cannon fodder bad guys and some like truly fucking insidious bad guys that are just out for themselves. That they're not trying to stay alive on the Suicide Squad because they've got something to live for. They just don't want to fucking lose. The Aquaman sequel, all sorts of other nonsense around that one. Did we cut out an entire character, or did we cut out most of her appearances? Who fucking knows at this point? But I don't really care about it. Like I didn't really care that much about the first one. When I did see it, which it was on HBO Max, I thought it was great. I actually thought it was a really good adaptation of a lot of the Grant Morrison stuff, which I have literally behind me here, from New 52. I really thought it was a great way to like approach it all. I think everything was done as good as it possibly could have been done. I just don't really care. Like for me, the next step in this would be to give me something along the lines of like Aquaman and the Others, right? We find out some secret history, like he was part of a team before, and like, you know, now some shit has come up where they gotta fucking come back together, and we find out about all these other interesting characters from all over the world. Like that would be an interesting film to me. But it's like yet another underwater battle for the throne or whatever. I don't care. Aquaman versus Black Manta for the 10 millionth time. I don't care. And that's part of the like, oh, let's just recycle this villain. No, that's why I really liked the Aquaman and the Other story, because that was just like, hey, this is a whole new part of the mythos. We're adding this whole other separate thing. Interesting, right? We're adding these new interesting characters. I was down for that. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think we're going to get any sort of like deep lore. I think they're just making another, well, made, I guess, that it's done. Another, you know, fun, but ultimately pointless action adventure superhero film, which will be, I mean, I'm sure I'll watch it on HBO Max, but it's absolutely not like, oh, I'm going to see the theater. I'm gonna, like, it's not even something I thought about going to see in theaters. I would like to see the Shazam movie in theaters, but again, I mean, if it's separate, I want them to just lean into it and say it's separate. Like, show those characters, like the people he's talking about, and have them not be the ones that we've seen. That would be awesome. I mean, hell, have them just be in the new universe already, because it's like, kind of, who cares? Or if they're just off on, what were they originally, Earth? I don't know, whatever their Earth number was, like, have them be there. Like, I'm cool with that. I have no problem with that. Like, I would even cut out that whole therapy session where he's talking about, oh, like, there's all these characters out here, like, what am I doing? Just cut that. Superman doesn't exist. Like, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I just don't have really any excitement, except for Blue Beetle. I need to know if it's part of the old universe, or if it's going to be part of the new universe, or, and this would be perfectly fine as well, if it's completely separate and we're just going to follow a Blue Beetle series of films. If it's that, you might have my money, depending on the trailer. The trailer's got a kick. But, like, you already have points because it's Blue Beetle. Like, you're starting ahead on this. So, you could either, like, bring it all the way home, or you could bring it back to me not giving a shit. Like, with the Batman, like, every trailer, it was just like, no, I'm not going. Like, that's all it was. And I still don't know why. I still think like, knowing that I liked it, I probably would have gone to see it in theaters, but something with how they presented those trailers, every new trailer, I was like, nope. And, like, by the third trailer, I just didn't care. I was like, nah, this looks boring. And look, was it exciting? No. So, I guess maybe I was right. But I don't know. I hope they have good trailers that make me want to go see it. Because again, I'm already starting with, I'd probably see Blue Beetle in theaters. Now, I have some caveats, because I need to know if it's going to be in the new universe. Because if it's going to be in the Snyderverse era, I don't care. I'm not going. I'm not wasting my money on that. Never again. But if you tell me this happens post-Flash, and Flash resets the universe, things are different, and this happens in this new universe, I'm there. I'm fucking there. Because I'm presuming, at that point, I'm giving you benefit of the doubt that all the new shit happens in that universe. Or you tell me, this is unrelated to anything else, we're just making a Blue Beetle film, and we'll see where it goes from there. Also, very fucking valid, perfectly fine with that. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is this insane notion that has been started the last few days about Netflix buying the Snyderverse from HBO, from Warner Discovery, to like continue it somehow. You couldn't possibly be asking them to make a worse financial decision. Do you understand that? Like, if you think that this is a viable course of action, you have no idea about how money works. Like, that's like buying a house that's already burned down to be like, I'm going to sell this for someone to live in. Well, the house is already burned down, so no one's moving in. Do you see my point? Like, you would have to spend a ton of money to restore the house to working condition, to have it inspected. Like, you're tripling your investment for the potential. Now, one or two people show up. Because they know it got burned down. Everybody saw it burn down. Like, it's not going to happen. In no universe, there's no timeline where Netflix buys the Snyderverse stuff. It's just not going to happen. What a ridiculous idea. Like, Netflix is not the saving grace. I need you all to understand. By all reports, Netflix is still in debt. Heavy, heavy debt. They should not be, nor are they, buying up massive swaths of property, especially from a competitor. Like, HBO Max is a competitor. Now, HBO Max and the Warner Discovery leadership right now is stupid, so they've given off some of their animation stuff to freaking Amazon. I'm kind of hoping it's like the Hanna-Barbera stuff. Just like, if it's DC stuff, it makes no fucking sense. But we have no idea what their actual plans are for their content at this point. Like, Warner Discovery did the best possible thing they could have by hiring James Gunn and his buddy to run the DC Studios part of things. And I really hope that they're in charge of all of the DC Studios related things. I will say one final like bonus point. James Gunn, if somehow this message gets to you, for the love of all that is holy, please don't try to integrate with games and comics, and don't do that. Now, if you want to put out a comic that is in canon to the new universe, that's fine. But don't be like, oh, this is another Earth in that multiverse. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because inevitably you're going to need to do something that will counteract that. Just don't. Just don't. Because guess what? The MCU has now shuffled away from that notion, because in the comics they were like, well, the MCU is Earth 1999 or whatever. And now the MCU films are like, no, it's not. It's a completely separate multiverse, because we touched on a lot of those universes, and guess what? They had nothing to do with the comics. So it's a separate multiverse. Just keep it separate. You want to put out comics? Fine. You want to make games that tie in and build canon into the new DC Studios universe? Perfectly fine. Just don't try to tie in anything that already exists into these films. That is a bad idea. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next one.
Green Lantern did the shit when all the others couldn't. Oh, now she love me, yeah, Wonder Woman. Now she telling me it's alright when the boy rides like the Dark Knight. I'm a blue moon in this bar fight. That's a dead shot in that song. Sight.